Beat mute.
I'm ARP.
ARP.
When they were doing degree.
Were y'all at the fair this year?
I was, well, I didn't volunteer though, I was out there. Were you at the fair?
I was, that's
Right.
giving
It's hard when you got
ARP a little bit, no trouble.
What of the many issues?
It was good. It was good to just. It was good to just be out there.
Card for Chris Bates.
It was good to just be out there and hang out and not have to have any
Because he's
commitments.
not on the committee anymore.
And you could actually
You
see
want to sign it?
other people and how they interacted with like security and things like that. It was. Again, we like to do what we call people watching.
Oh, yeah.
So you just, I heard the line.
Because you
She had COVID last week. It's a better idea if she.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Good.
Have this for her. Now, she'll know what it is, but you can read it to her.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to her last week.
Do we have a quorum? That's what I want to know. And then would somebody like to volunteer to read the Dakota Land, Water, and people
sheet in front of you,
acknowledge.
Daryl.
She's got the, don't we have to introduce ourselves first?
Say that again. Do you want to read it? Is that what you're saying, Heidi?
No, I'm just asking, I thought we were supposed to introduce ourselves first and then do all the.
Yep, that's why I said, well, if we can think about who wants to read that statement, we can do that when we take a.
Daryl, I have the sheet in front of me.
Great. So you're gonna,
Kevin kind of ripped me into it.
there we go.
Hey, David's back.
There we go, David.
Can we get this to Julie? Yeah. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Hello, folks. We got a nice full house today. Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. Apologies for being a minute or two late. Parking was fun. We will, let's go ahead and get it started and go around the room and have members and staff support introduce themselves. We'll start on the left with Claudia.
Claudia Fugly, MNCCD.
Chris Liefeld, AARPM, replacing Richard Rowan.
Heidi Meyer, Minnesota CCD, I'm back.
Doug Cook, Metro Transit.
Stephanie Kata, I'm Patsy's IHS worker.
Patsy Murphy, Precinct C.
Cheryl Schmidt, Metro Mobility.
David Finley, Chair.
Daryl Paulson, Vice Chair, and Region, or District H, is it? Not
F.
F. All right.
Thanks.
Kevin Petrie, Recording Secretary.
Patty Thorson Trellis.
Eric Hendrickson, MCD.
Carrie Sheldon, Precinct G.
And online, I see at least one person. Michelle.
Can she talk?
Hi, I'm Michelle Severson. I'm with the Minnesota Council on Disability.
Any other members
Sam
online?
Jasmine.
Oh, Sam, go ahead, Sam.
Sam Jasmine, Precinct A.
And then I see a few staff as well. Go ahead, Julie. Oh, we cannot hear you, Julie.
Oh, she's talking, but there's no.
I know. Give it just a second.
Julie, it looks like you're still muted.
Julie Selner, Metro Mobility. My apologies. Thank you.
Awesome. And do we have any other staff or members online besides people who are running the tech for us? I don't see them. Perfect. We do have quorum, which is nice, so we can approve a lot of minutes from the past. But first, let's move on to the second thing, and I'll call to order, which is the land, water, and people acknowledgement. Was that you, Eric?
Claudia's ready.
Claudia, yes, take it away, Claudia.
Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement. The Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is in central homeland of the Dakota Oyata, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Oyata. The Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policy. These commitments support the Dakota Oyate, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota. Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the seven-county region home.
Thank you very much, Claudia. I appreciate that. Before we move on to the approval of this agenda, I do want to add one more thing, which is the June 2025 minutes, which you should all have in your packets and from a few months ago. Just so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on call to order. I want to add number 8, which is June 2025, so we can finally get through and approve some minutes over the past few minutes where we've been struggling with quorum over the summer, which is understandable given that summer in Minnesota means people usually go do things that might not be in St. Paul. So with that change to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve this agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you both. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Fantastic. Thank you all very much. Let's take them one at a time. I'll just move right down. They're not in chronological order in terms of when, but they are in numerical order. So we'll go number 4, approval of the December 2024 minutes. If there's any changes. All right. Daryl moves.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Fantastic. That passes. Moving right on down to February. I would entertain a motion to approve the February meeting minutes.
So move.
Thank you very much, Dial. Another second. Perfect. We got a good routine going on here. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Abstention. Perfect. Makes sense. All right. All right. So number 6, approval of the April minutes.
So move.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
Perfect. Right on down the list to May.
So move. Second.
Fantastic. All in favor?
A newcomer.
I know.
Aye.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Perfect.
And we have June, right?
Yeah. And then finally, we have June minutes for approval. I would accept a motion. All right.
Second.
Fantastic. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstention? Fantastic. All right, that was quick and easy. Thank you all very much for getting us through our minutes where we did not have quorum over the last few months. And we will just dive right into business and information. We have a Franklin Station renovation update from Liz and Kevin. Feel free to introduce yourselves and then just dive right in, please.
Sounds good. My name is Liz Maurice, and I'm the project manager for the Franklin Station redesign. I'm in engineering and facilities at Metro Transit.
And my name's Kevin Murray, and I'm the outreach coordinator on the Franklin Avenue project, and I'll be working very closely with Liz.
And thank you so much for allowing us to present today. I do have a presentation, and I'm wondering if it's going to be up here, or do I?
I'm sure our guy behind the scenes is working to get it up right now.
Okay, sounds good.
There we go.
Perfect, great. So ignore the date on there, on that slide anyway. We'll just go right into it. Let's go to that. Okay, next slide, please.
You might be able to control it. I'm not sure.
This should, but does it need to maybe it needs to be, okay,
There you
it's
go.
working now. Great. Okay, so my name is Liz, as I mentioned, and I'm in engineering facilities, a project manager. We have been working on this project for the last 2 years. I think it's been in the sort of the queue. We applied for regional solicitation funding, and over the winter, we developed the scope and the process, and we finally got a designer on board in the last month. So this project's really in the beginning phase, and we're we're here today to really get more input on the project priorities and the different phases of the project as we've outlined them so far. So for those who aren't familiar with Franklin Station, this is a photo of the shelters there. And the station has really undergone a lot of, next slide, please. The station's really undergone a lot of stress in the last couple of years with the pandemic and really seen a lot of wear and tear. The station opened up with the rest of the Blue Line in 2004, so it's over 20 years old. It has seen really high ridership since its beginning, and it really maintained that ridership over the pandemic with over 400,000 rides in 2024, or averaging out to around 1,100 boardings per day. So really significant ridership, and we see frequent all-day use at the station outside of commute times, et cetera, for work and that kind of thing. There's also, the station is served by the routes 2, Route 9, and Route 67. It also is served by the Route 22. And each of those has a number of ons and offs. So there's a lot of transfer activity from the buses below the station on Franklin Avenue and from Cedar Avenue where the Route 22 is. The e-scooter activity and the e-bike activity is actually tracked through the City of Minneapolis data. And what they found in 2023 is that there were over 24,000 stops and starts in the station area for e-scooters and e-bikes, which is really illuminating because it's one of the highest use areas in the region for e-bikes and e-scooters. And I think that lends to some of the needs at the station as well. The station's also served by the Hiawatha Light Rail Trail, and we're repairing that currently, but it has high biker and walker activity on that trail as well. So some of the improvement needs that we've heard from facility staff and from customers at the site, we see difficult maintenance due to the layout of the site, the frequent use, and some of the older station components. For some of you may be aware that there are frequent elevator outages, and currently the elevator on the north side of the platform is not open to the public, and it has caused a lot of issues for daily maintenance as well as safety concerns for the area. There's a lack of bike and scooter parking. You frequently see scooters piled up near the station. The signage is really out of date, both in terms of our branding guidelines and in terms of the needs and how people use it. I'm frequently at the station and people are asking for directions, and a lot of it isn't intuitive, I think in part because it is a multi-floor station where the station's on the bridge. And there's been a lot of community safety challenges in the area, which has led us to have 24-hour security there. But there are still limits to the way it's designed and sort of the resources we have for those security members. So I'm going to go more into depth on the next slide in terms of the project priorities and station scope. We have done some initial engagement, including engagement with staff, or the maintenance staff. We've toured the station, and really they've outlined what they want to see changed and what facilities they really need to keep the station in good working order. We've also had some initial engagement around security. So when Metro Transit was going to post security staff there, there was outreach to the community and support for that effort. We've talked to some of the property owners and community groups, and Kevin will really detail sort of the plan for that. We've also had, we've had a really great experience with the American Indian Advisory Council, which is a project of the Met Council. And our tribal liaison, Allison Waka, has been coordinating with them. Kevin and I have had a chance to present twice to really understand needs in the area and needs that group has seen at the station. Next slide, please. So our project priorities that we've outlined in this process are accessibility, customer experience, reducing daily maintenance, mobility and connectivity, sustainability, and community identity and affirming community identity. Next slide, please. So in terms of accessibility, the existing conditions, there's, as I mentioned, frequent elevator outages. There's no redundant access on the south side of the station. So the north side of the station has a ramp that people can use, but the south side has just a stairs when the elevator's out, which forces people to actually go up to Cedar Avenue. And it takes a time, and it's quite onerous if you're getting off the bus on the south side of the station. And there's also just platform obstructions and clutter, which are issues for, I think, a lot of folks as they access the station. Related to the items in our scope for this project are in the redesign or to redesign and reconstruct the 2 vertical circulation towers. We'd also like an outage-proof ADA access, so we're exploring both a ramp or a safer crossing of Franklin Avenue beneath the station. Next slide, please. Reducing daily maintenance. So currently our maintenance team visits the station sometimes twice a day to clean the station and clean up trash and clean up other issues there. It's difficult to clean because it's cluttered and it has a lot of nooks and crannies where trash builds up. There's frequent biohazards in the station area, and there are things like the hand shoveling of the steps. This picture shows Metro Transit facilities workers hand shoveling the steps, which they do every time there's a snowfall, and oftentimes this is really tedious and ends up in injuries for staff. So it's a big issue. So related to this in our scope, we have expansion of outdoor and indoor of the indoor maintenance spaces. So this would be improving the maintenance for the elevator, as well as having some sort of a water or a janitor's closet and other facilities for better, easier cleaning of the station. We'd also like to improve sight lines at the station to avoid unwanted non-transit activity. We'd like to design it to minimize shoveling, and that might include snow melt or some other options. And we're also going to be siting a police touchdown space near the station, as well as some warming areas for supplemental security and for operators as they change over there. Next slide, please. In terms of mobility and connectivity, as I mentioned, the existing station has really disorganized e-scooter placement. Sometimes the e-scooters, and showing in this picture is the Hiawatha Light Rail Trail with e-scooters piled up next to it, and you'll frequently see that underneath by the bus below. And this creates, it's a obstruction and can create a hazard, but it also is less useful for people who want to use e-scooters or e-bikes. When it's so disorganized. There's also dated signage and limited wayfinding. So in our scope, we have improved covered bike and scooter parking, as well as mobility hub components, perhaps charging elements, and improved wayfinding, which will be redesigned and rethought out through this process. Next slide, please. In terms of sustainability, the station currently has really inefficient lighting. There's frequent glass breakage and damaged components on the station. Landscaping that is really difficult to maintain, and frequently there are sharps and other issues in the landscaping. So rethinking how that is so it works both for the station and the environment. Also, there's a lot of erosion on the sides of the station. There's sugar sand for where the ramp is, so that's also led to some odd settling problems of the concrete there, and some issues with creating a redundant ramp on the other side. So in our design scope, we're going to have sustainability as part of the process throughout. We'll have a sustainability memo that looks at design and priorities, as well as measures for those sustainability elements. We will be identifying climate risk factors. This is an area that's supposed to be prone to flooding and is at risk for that in terms of climate change in the future. There's also the support for sustainability throughout the design in terms of material selection and creating durable platform parts that aren't replaced as frequently. And so we see a number of opportunities in that way to reduce the overall carbon footprint. Next slide, please. In terms of community identity, so the existing station has a number of art elements to it. There's some retrofit shelters that have been retrofit with sort of a clear glass. And showing on this picture is a little bit of those elements where there's, it's a design by an Anishinaabe artist, Sarah Agatenhau, or her name is also Hart Berry. And she has designed some of those shelter art and some art in the elevators there. There was also something called Neon Charms, which was a neon public art piece, but it's been very difficult to maintain, so it was removed. And as a result, you're also seeing frequent tagging and shelter vandalism on the platform. So part of the design scope is to demonstrate an understanding of the historic experience of people in the station area. We had that specifically outlined in the RFP. And we want the designers to provide information related to this community context in the design and their design approach. We want them to incorporate community feedback into advancing station design, and we want them to include how they've incorporated the different community feedback elements and historic context into their design. We see opportunities for the design themes for public art and wayfinding. We see opportunities for language to be displayed at the station that reflects the neighborhood identity and placekeeping. There's a real opportunity, I think, in that area to hear from the community and hear what they want to see, but also create something, a platform experience that is welcoming to people from a variety of different communities. So we're really looking forward to advancing that in this design. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, overall, the design scope includes replacing and rethinking the elevators, adding an additional ramp or street crossing, redesigning the platform canopy and components, redoing wayfinding, creating a warming area and other cleaning facilities for security staff and cleaners, citing a police touchdown space, and creating bike and micromobility parking, as well as cultural elements and placekeeping there. Next slide, please. Our design is currently underway. We've just kicked off the process, and we will be advancing a concept design in the next month. We hope to have a station visit, and we will invite as many people as possible to that to sort of understand how the concept design would look at the station. We will have 30% design by January this year, and 60 and 90% in the following 6 months to finish up and wrap up 100% design a year from now. So it's quite an ambitious schedule, but the goal is to sort of fit this with other projects we have going for the Blue Line extension. Next slide, please. And I'm gonna hand this over to Kevin to talk more about the engagement phases and what's planned for that.
All right, thanks, Liz. So our engagement phase is just kind of an overview of that. So when we start phase one, we're actually in the initial design phase right now, which started at the beginning of this month and is going to go through October of 2025. So what we look to do in this initial design phase is to really host community discovery listening sessions, just to find out some questions like, what is the community looking for? What do you want to see actually at the station? Station pop-ups, meaning just showing up with flyers, asking questions and greeting the riders just to find out, ask them as well, what is it that they're looking for at the station? Doing some resident door knocking, giving some history of the station and kind of giving an overview of what these phases may look like. Conduct community surveys, and that would be both digital as well as in-person options. And then when we move to our phase two, which is kind of our 30% design phase, which begins in October, towards the end of October into December 2025, we'll have a huge social media push. We will host our initial open house with some of the contractors or the consultants that we are working with directly with. We'll also have internal stakeholder focus groups, internal and external stakeholder focus groups. Then we move into our phase three, which is our 60% design, which will start in January and run through April of 2026. We'll conduct our second survey. We'll also have our second open house. And we'll continue to update the newsletter, which will be on our website. And there will be there will be links to get to that so you can follow along. And I'll be updating that on a regular basis as things happen and to really give you an outlook on, what's getting ready to happen, the open houses, pop-ups, and things of that nature will all be posted on there. Once you move into our phase 4, which will be our 90% design, which is also our final design phase, we'll have pre-construction, final project planning, and this is where we're just really informing, what the station is going to look like as we get closer to the actual construction phase. And that'll be in April, and that'll run through September of 2026. Again, we'll have more station pop-ups with, I'll give design brochures, which kind of show what the plans are for the station to look like. We'll have stakeholder email updates, and I'll also be distributing postcards and flyers to libraries, apartment communities, community centers, transit centers, et cetera. So in our phase 1 engagement topics, we're going to have a lot of discovery questions. Again, more of the what would you like to see at the station? How would you like it to represent your culture, your community, and so on? We'll have project priorities and principles, and our goals will be to build the awareness of the project, sharing the timeline that Liz just mentioned, describe what to expect with the engagement, and ask early questions that'll also refine the design.
And so as mentioned for the related projects, this is a part of the overall, I think I'll stand up again. This is a part of the overall Renew the Blue project. And so I'm following closely in the footsteps of the Lake Street Station renovation. I've learned a lot from Christina Morrison, who's led that. It also, on either end of the station, so the Lake Streets to the south, Cedar Riverside to the north of the station's also being revisited with some shelter repairs there, which is really great. Then there's the track and signal work that's happening for state of good repair. So this project is being timed to be ready to be under construction for the shutdowns for the Renew the Blue, which will minimize service disruptions as a result. There's also some work happening, being planned right now for the Franklin Avenue Bridge. And we have some smaller scale CX 360 customer experience projects, including, there's a picture here on this slide of an elevator at Franklin Station that has wallpaper. We've refurbished the elevator so it would be suitable to the public use in the medium term before the station's completely renovated. Yeah, so I think that's most of the content for our presentation. We do have a couple discussion questions, but I'd also like to open it up to questions from this group and feedback on what you think this project should prioritize as we are just kicking off design right now.
I have a couple questions, but I'll let members ask first. Heidi, and then Daryl.
My question, well, two of them is, if you do the artwork, make it so you can clean it real easily and not have to, because I wouldn't want to invest all my time if I was an artist and then find out you have to take it down because it didn't work or someone vandalized it, because now we just have to be a little sensitive too, because everybody has a different point of view of what the world is today. But just so you just figure out products when you're doing it, think about products, because I know in different states they got products where they have to do this day in and day out and clean the walls. And then the other thing is, I have a learning disability, so I have to process all this information you just gave me. So I want to be able, with the new design, it's not so complicated that I have to ask somebody how to get to one spot, to the other spot, to this spot, to that spot, just to get onto the train or the right train. Because in Minneapolis, I still get a little lost, because sometimes it's this side and not that side. So I just have to understand the alphabet or the numbers or the street and stuff. And then every time I go, it's like, oh no, they redesigned it. So now I have to go way over there just to go to the Pride Festival, or I have to go way over there just to do this. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. It's not just people in wheelchairs, and yes, I use a forearm crutch, but we also have to process all this information. If I can't process it, how am I going to get to where I need to go? So something to think about, not just wheelchairs, scooters, and walkers and stuff. Think about the processing. So all those people in scooters, wheelchairs, and walkers, and foreign crutches can get where they need to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Daryl?
Go ahead, Chair. 'cause
All right.
Maybe I'll.
I'll ask a couple questions. So you did mention ramp and also elevators being notoriously hard to upkeep. Would this be a ramp versus elevator thing? Are you thinking about adding a ramp and then keeping the elevator? I know we're still early on in the design, but I know this group would be very interested in hearing what the initial thoughts are on that.
Yes, definitely. And Chair, can I answer
Oh, yeah,
some of
please,
those
please.
questions too?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So to your point about wayfinding, I 100% agree. We want this to be as easy of a user experience as possible. And two strategies I think we have for that is one, to make sure that we are sort of duplicating design that's elsewhere. So you're not having to figure out the station platform every single time. Some things should be in the same place. And what we've noticed, for example, with ticket vending machines is that there's a lot of variety of where they are in the platform.
The ends of the.
Exactly. So can we figure out a way to standardize that as much as possible with other stations? And then to your point with the art and upkeep, I'm really glad you mentioned that because we've been piloting some new ways of displaying the art at Franklin Station. So similar to other projects, we have a vinyl wallpaper that is, it's anti-graffiti in two senses because it is very dense, so it's kind of hard to tag because there's not a lot of open space on it. And also it's a material that's easy to clean and is more durable. So we do have a mural that we're putting up on the stairs below the station right now, and it'll pilot some of that. So I really appreciate you saying that. And part of the wayfinding should be, the design of the wayfinding should be a really important part of this process because there's so many people who, it's just not obvious when you're at the station where to go to get the buses and all that too. So I appreciate that. And to your point about the elevators. So the idea would be to be having elevators on, currently we're scoped to have elevators on each side of the platform. So it would be an additional ramp or possibly a crossing to the ramp so that there's just more than one option that's accessible. But I would be open to feedback too if folks feel like we should be prioritizing 2 ramps or if, if there are ideas for making the elevators more user-friendly.
I think as long as it wasn't a versus an either or thing.
Right.
I think the elevator should stay in place and then obviously having that second option for folks if they want, not as a kind of fallback to let the elevators go unmaintained, but more as just another option for people if there's a line for the elevators or if they prefer a ramp.
We have both.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to have both, yes. So it's not an either or thing, which was my main question. Is this, so you want to go?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so.
I'm just trying to keep my thoughts without losing it.
Has it been upgraded? I know it's been maintained, obviously, but has it been upgraded all in the last 21 years?
There have been a number of projects there, okay. So some of the things that aren't really that noticeable are they've redone, there used to be pavers there and they've resurfaced the platform so it's all concrete. There was a platform extension so that there could be 3 cars in each train at the station. And then there have been a number of iterations of the shelters. There used to be a customer booth there that I think was not used in a way that was good. So they've kind of removed some of those elements, but kind of somewhat major projects, but nothing to this scale.
Sure.
And are you ready?
I'm a little bit ready.
All right, I'll ask another question then. Then you can go. How has the law enforcement presence, I think, did you say 24-hour law enforcement presence? How long has it been there and has that helped improve user experience and elevator cleanliness?
Yes, so I started at Metro Transit in 2023. And I know that there's been some security presence almost throughout that whole time since we've applied for the, and I understand that there may have been on and off some security presence before that. We are increasing the security presence to, I think, hopefully 4 in the next, for the next contract. But yeah, there's usually 2 or 3 there 24 hours a day. I think it does help. I think, there's limits to the area they really are kind of in charge of and helping secure. And there's also a lot of out-of-site activities still, and I think part of this redesign would be to sort of minimize some of that out-of-sight space with the way the project's designed, so making sure that there are clear sight lines for the security team. They actually, we were able to open up the elevator on the south side in part because the security officers could use that as a warming area when it was really cold out. And that had a double effect of them being able to sort of watch more closely the elevator to make sure that, unwanted activity wasn't occurring in the elevator rooms. So I think that that's helped. There is also frequent visits from the Metro Transit Police, and I believe it's, we're coordinating with other security agencies. But it's an ongoing challenge. So something that this station, we can redesign it to whatever level, but without sort of coordination between different agencies and different community partners, I think some of the issues we see there won't go away. So I think people are really aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this group and this station is not going to solve our nation, state, city problem with poverty and substance use disorder and mental health, the total non-existent mental health system. But that's a whole nother topic. But I think what is important, obviously, is that riders at least feel safe. I mean, I think, the perception of safety and things that are safe are two different things, and we want people to feel safe. So thank you for giving me some history on that. Daryl, you ready to take it away?
Yes. So Liz, the way I see it, there's been, when we do a station design and we do a station upgrades, we talk about changing the lighting. We talk about changing the receptacles so that people can throw their trash away more frequently. We talk about even bathroom upgrades. But then what happens is after about 6 months, those bathrooms begin to be locked. They begin to be not used for the intended purposes that they were designed for. And what happens is people like myself who travel with attendants or with my family, we lose out on those amenities, and we are asked to either go upstairs or go to another location, which then prevents me from waiting for the bus in a fashion that anybody else would. What I would suggest is it says that the sitting police touchdown space and bathroom will be designed and constructed separately. Who's paying for that? And who's looking at that design to make sure that that bathroom, it may not be able to be, or it may not be needed 24/7, but if it was needed for its intended purpose, people should have access to it. The couple of the things I would say when we talk about rethinking the elevators or the sight lines, at that location, the sight lines are going to be a little tricky the way it is. So I think it really boils down to customer experience, and those that work at the station, if they don't use the station or understand the use of the station, they may just push people along or try to get them along their way. And what I'm trying to say is, if we want people to use public transit, we have to start using it ourselves. So those of us that advocate for it have to use it. So what I'm saying to that is that if you have staff that just work and just say, oh, this is the way it's designed, and this is what should be happening, but yet they jump in their carpool 4 days a week, and they may use transit 1 or 2 days a week. That's not enough to say transit works, right? So we got to create incentives for all of us that work in this industry to say, hey, I use transit because it works for me. And if it works for me, it was going to work for you too. And so the way we do that is we talk about wayfinding, right? And wayfinding, that's a new thing, right? So the one thing I urge you guys to do is look at the way that wayfinding is done at the airport. More importantly, MSP, or look at the way we do art installations. We talk about cultural elements and placekeeping, right? So if you look at the airport, Concourse G particularly, there's an artist, I forget his first name, but his staff person was with us earlier this month, or later part of last month. And so if you look at that art installation on Concourse G tells the story of transit and how it moves and how it's free-flowing and how it includes everybody, including the workers, including the ones that clean the streets, including the ones that maintain the buses, including all that, right? So when we design projects like this, not only do we come to committees like this and say, I want you to be on my committee, but let's find a spot for that individual to actually engage with the project so that they can say, yes, I actually had my fingerprint on that, or I had my toe print on that, And that's really what I wanted, to instill with you, Liz, because I know that this project has been on the minds of everybody for the last several years, and it's going to be a good project when it's done, but it needs to include those of us that use the system and those of them that live around there. And I know engagement, like your partner said, engagement is his thing, right? Mm-hmm. And when you look at Metro Transit, they do engagement pretty well. But what happens is you get a few residents that say we don't want it this way and we want it this way instead. And then that engagement, that kind of fizzle kind of starts to deflate. And I want you guys to know that we don't want this project to deflate. We want to be included in this project. And please think of us as the project moves forward.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
I was taking notes. Do you have?
I think I take your point about using the system and actually understanding it quite to heart and making sure that people who are designing it are using it and understand that. I think that's really important. And giving people a genuine opportunity to really put input into the design that's actually incorporated, I think is really important. And I hope, and we are open to ideas also on how this committee would like to be engaged, and how often you want us to come back, because this is our work and that we've got nothing but time for this group too, but I also know that there are a lot of projects at Metro Transit, so yeah.
There are, but thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Chris, but before that, I do want to reiterate, I think, probably Daryl's most important point, which is when putting in bathrooms, restrooms, toilets.
Oh, yes, I forgot to, because that was in the beginning. So Lake Street, the Midtown Station redesign, they are sort of heading that off, and they are piloting a public restroom there. The part of our project that we're trying to figure out is how the police touchdown space is incorporated with the other parts of the station. And I think they do have their own funding. They have a capital program for funding for that. So we want to make sure we're taking advantage of that opportunity to create as secure and usable bathroom space as possible. And that is a question, and it's something we need to look at, because if we're going to put up something, just like the elevators, it doesn't help if an elevator's there when it's closed all the time.
Right.
So we need it to be reliable, and that is one of our priorities.
I will say, Liz, on the bathroom side,
Yeah.
you can look at the Mall of America for that, and you can look at the way that they design that and the way that they're not using it currently. But it's very easily, you can put a pass-through lock on there. It's not something that serious. I use pass-through locks in my own home for staff and stuff like that. So they're only like a few dollars, and there's already a camera there, so you can see who's in there, how long they're in there. And yes, they're not sitting there 24/7 watching it, but you're gonna be able to tell if somebody is in there for more than, a few minutes or an hour, if you're doing your job.
Absolutely. And there are models for it across the country that work and in our city that work. And I think it's about, taking those best practices and putting them into our own processes here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, just a question. I'm coming back to safety. And clearly, everything you're describing, it's integral to what you're doing as part of this project. But why wouldn't you list it as a project priority? To create a safe environment or create an environment that's less fearful for folks? It's just, because also in the materials, there's no reference really to it except the citing of the police station. Elsewhere, it's not noted. And to me, that's, for me, a fundamental issue in terms of some place being accessible where you can come in where you don't have fear, or at least reduced fear. So that's just a
great feedback. And I will say they are still flexible. I'm still doing the environmental documentation for it. So I agree. And I'm looking at this. I didn't really describe in the slide that that's sort of under customer experience, because we want the customer experience to feel safe and comfortable. But to your point, that is, if something's not explicit, sometimes it's not real. So, yeah.
Raise it up.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Eric, do you have a question? And then I'll come to you, Heidi.
Thank you, Chair. Questions and some comments. One question is about the space you're going to be building, or the improvement for the scooters and e-bikes. Are any of those scooters or e-bikes private companies that would utilize that space? Are they going to be providing funding if we're using public dollars to make improvements for private companies, essentially?
So I think that's a good question. The mobility hub components aspect, so we have somebody in our department who is heading up mobility hubs for Metro Transit. And I think the components of that are more integral to like e-charging for cars and some of that kind of content. So in terms of like providing actual charging for Lyft scooters or the other brands of scooters, I don't think that'll be part of this, but having a designated area where where they can be parked is gonna be different than it is now, because the existing bike parking is kind of tucked away from where it seems like all the scooters are getting left. So, we're still kind of working that out, but I take that feedback. I don't think it would, if it were a public-private partnership to that extent, we would expect that to be paid. I mean, it wouldn't be us providing that, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that, or the nexus, is typically when you're looking at providing accessibility improvements, some of the difficult ones like the ramp might come down to cost. So prioritizing funding in that improvement over something that might benefit private parties, I think should take precedent wherever you can value engineer down and simplify that to make sure that a ramp goes in. Because I think the priority would be a ramp rather than a crossing the street down the road and making safety improvements, so it might be a little bit safer, but it's just as inconvenient as the route would be as it is now. We've seen, maybe it was the Lake Street, or one of these projects that have come through, that they developed a ramp, which kind of brings me to the next prioritization is, if the ramp gets prioritized and it gets built in through your design, is ensuring that you have the shortest route possible as well. Not some serendipitous route where, hey, the elevator's down, you do have access, hey, we checked that box, but you gotta go through a farmer's market or through some parking lot to get and utilize the ramp to get from point A to point B, where I'm dropped off to maybe the point in which I wanna get onto the light rail or something like that. So that would be another prioritization. My final question would be on 30%, it sounds like you're going to involve in your outreach feedback from internal and external stakeholders. I'm curious who from the ADA community are you planning on reaching out to at that stage? Because at 30%, it's a perfect opportunity to pivot and or reprioritize some things based on the design that I think that we would want to understand, and I'm just curious who you're reaching out to.
So I don't think we have anybody specifically outlined right now, so we would be open to feedback of who that would be good to include. And in terms of other staff groups, we are planning to do a staff survey and then also focus groups with some of the people who work at the station a lot, like the public facilities workers and people who are repairing the station, as well as the operators who have like a changeover there. So I think we'd be interested in, maybe if Doug and Kevin can work together too on that, if you want to add any more to that. Sure.
Yeah, there's a wide range of needs when it comes to our community, from seeing impaired to mobility issues, and there's just a whole spectrum. So not even just one person or one group, I think, could give you really good feedback. I think it's going to be again, a spectrum of groups that you're going to want to reach out to and include. And now I think I understand a little bit between internal, like operators, people who might be working there, that kind of thing, versus external. So maybe it's the external side. But I know with our previous project that we had been getting updates fairly frequently, I'd say maybe twice a year. I would offer that I think we would also be interested in those milestone updates, especially before I think we get to the point maybe in 60 or 90 where this is what it's going to be. We're setting expectations where we can look at something that's, an actual plan view or something where we can actually have some feedback to help give you valuable input on the accessibility needs. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Would you like to respond? It's up to you.
I think that, even coming back here in like the January timeframe where we're at 30%, we should have something to show in terms of that, or February, but kind of marching up to 60%. That'll be in another 6 months. It's going to be, feels like a long way away, but it will come up quickly, I think, with this project. And I'd also be open to invite you all to like a site visit if anyone's interested or has that kind of time to sort of point out specific things, I think is always really helpful too, once we have an idea of kind of how things are going to be laid out, to get input on that.
Thank you. Before I go to you, Heidi, I just want to tap on a couple points that you just made. When you have an open house date, please share it with us. I'll try to be there, and also for a site visit. I think there will be a couple people here that probably want to come to. That is sort of my neck of the woods. I live close by, so I'd like to be there because I do use that station sometimes. And then yes to the returning in January, February. I think that's a great time to come back and get a little bit more feedback. Heidi.
Yeah, my question is, when you said ramps, is that indoors or outdoor ramps are you talking about? Because they need to be shoveled in a way that certain people don't, you end up with injuries or anything bad, because our winters take a beating, and I've been at bus stops where they're not safe, And then the other thing is, when Daryl was talking about the bathrooms, and you talk about some things that are not good things happening there. Are you working with the homeless population to make sure that, because I know Daryl mentioned the Mall of America, but I've seen at the Mall of America where the bathrooms get used in ways where I just want to go to the bathroom. I don't want a whole show of people who have to use the bathrooms for other reasons that might not be 100% appropriate, but I know they need, like a sink to brush their teeth and And I know they put in there like the little thing for the needles and stuff, you know, if you're diabetic or whatever. And that's okay, and I understand that part. But it's just the idea that, is it going to be built in a way that, you know, I'm going to see things or don't want kids there, or, you know, I'm concerned about, because I've been at bus stops where, and they finally got rid of that in West 7th Street, and it really cleaned up by United Hospital area, you know, and the bus stop, because they decided to use the old fire station, and they stopped that, and it massively cleaned up. And it's not like tons of homeless people, you know, and some scary things too happening. And I need to take the bus because that's where my doctor is. So I was just wondering if you're working on that, because I don't want it to be where it can be a scary situation where now no one wants to, because I have friends that don't want to go to parts of Minneapolis because of that reason. Thank you.
Definitely. I think that, is okay to respond to that?
Yeah, take it away. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. One thing that's really cool about our design team is it includes an architectural firm, Full Circle, and they've done just an incredible amount of work in the community. They've helped redesign the American Indian Center. They've helped design some of the apartments over there, and they have a lot of really good relationships, I think, with some of the property owners. And it's really clear that a lot of people see the same issues and there's a commitment to addressing them to make it safer for everyone. So I don't think there are any easy answers. I think we can put in designs that create more both public surveillance, eyes on the street, and security measures from Metro Transit. But it is an ongoing problem, and yeah, there's a lot to that. But, and also working with, I mean, it's already been brought up with the council that we need to address sort of like where Hennepin County does their needle drop exchange and different other programming that's happening that might inadvertently make some of these areas less safe too. Because there is sort of a
The only
spillover.
reason I brought it up is because I've seen some really bad things, and I was told to make a complaint, and I did, and I got weird responses on how they're going to take care of it, you know? Is it the county? Is it Metro Transit? You know, because I'm at the bus stop, and I'm, you know, and if I had kids, you know, I wouldn't want them to see this, because the world is not all that horrible, you know? And I don't want them to always, you know, transportation, if they have to take a bus, I want them to know that there is some good to it. It's not all evil and bad.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also some of the streets that are around the station on either end, I think there are different ways. There's thinking behind how to activate those in ways so they don't just end up being a spot where there's nothing going on, so then unwanted activities happening there too.
And then the other thing I asked was the safety for like shoveling and stuff, or
Oh,
like
yes.
if we have two options, which is awesome, how do you maintain that so I can still get where I need to go and not on the ground?
Yes, very good question. And how do you make sure, I think that our most efficient snow removal equipment is able to fit into these places so that they can pick up the snow very quickly. We're also looking at snow melt options or covering, and it wouldn't be enclosed, but it could be covered so it's shielded from the snow. So we're looking at all those things
And
because,
de-icing too, products too? Are you looking at any
yeah.
of that?
yeah.
Cool, awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from members online? I see a little red dot under the chat option. I'm just curious if they were trying to chime in. Sam, Michelle, you have 3 more seconds. Okay, Doug.
Okay, yeah, hi. Yeah, I work a lot with blind individuals, and I just want to keep it in the forefront of your mind to put some guides in, that's natural guides or some obvious guides to help them get from that bus to that station, to the elevator, to the ramp. And just, utilize some of the things we've been doing in the past that worked. Just keep that in the forefront of your mind.
Definitely, thank you.
Good idea.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments from members? Fantastic. Yeah, that was great, robust discussion. Thank you very much for coming. We look forward to seeing you again. And also, yeah, the open house date when it comes up, please. And also potential roll through.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you both.
everyone, for your
Oh, yeah.
questions.
All right, so next on the agenda is Julie with Metromobility program or stat update. So Julie, thank you. Glad you could be here. Take it away.
Thank you very much for having me in Teams instead of in person this session. I appreciate that very much. I do have a presentation, so as soon as that's available and can be put up on the screen, we'll walk through that. And can I just ask, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Next screen, please.
He has to get it up first.
There we go. You're up and
Oh,
rolling.
I'm sorry. I came up on my side faster. My apologies. Again, this is kind of the overview of what the matrices are. They're explained out and what our expectation and our goals are for both ADA and non-ADA. I know that we've covered this several times in the past. If you'd like, I can read it word for word, but it's really there more for your reference.
You don't have to read it word for word. I think this was shared out earlier in an accessible format. But yeah, just take us through what the important points that you think are, Julie.
Majority of a majority of paratransit services across the nation are judged on three primary key service performance matrices. The first one is on-time performance. How often are we ensuring that people are being picked up on time or dropped off on time? The next one is your appointment time, and that's a percentage of trips that arrive no later than the negotiated appointment time. So if a doctor's appointment's at 1 o'clock, we are arriving between 12:30 and 1 o'clock at that scheduled appointment time. For on-time performance, our ADA goal is obviously 100%. The likelihood of achieving 100% is extremely difficult, but it's a goal that we want to keep in place. FTA requirement is 90%, and our non-ADA goal is 85%. When it comes to our appointment time, again, our goal is try to achieve 100%, and the whole purpose of that is to ensure that we are constantly striving for improvement. Our contract ADA goal is 85% and non-ADA goal of 85%. We also have what's called an onboard time. That's a percentage of trips that do not exceed a calculated maximum board time. Again, our contract minimum is 95% and our non-ADA is 95%. We are always trying to achieve 100% if at all possible. Capacity denials means those are any ADA trips that have been requested that have been denied due to capacity issues. According to the ADA, it does not permit transit agencies to have any capacity constraints on ADA paratransit. And capacity constraints are defined as operational patterns or practices that significantly limit the availability of service to ADA paratransit eligible individuals. Any questions on that side?
None in the room.
Next slide, please. Currently, our 2025 year-to-date KPI for on-time performance on ADA is 93.5%. For non-ADA is 93.3%, and our total trips overall is 93.4%. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, the FTA threshold is 90%. In this screen, I am breaking out the total trips that we performed, the total on-time trips broken out by ADA, non-ADA, and total trips. It's also identifying the total number of late trips under each category. So in this case, under total trips at 93.4%, we have total trips of a little over 1 million trips with 997.9 thousand that are on time and 70,000 that are considered late trips. Next slide, please. If we take that information and break it out, and my concentration is really on those late trips. How many of those trips are exceeding by how many minutes? And then how do we work to get those trips into the trips on time windows? So in this case, out of those 70,000 trips that are arriving late, 26,000 are between 30 seconds and 5 minutes past the pickup window. 17,000 are between 5 and 10 minutes of that pickup window. And again, it breaks it out category by category from 10 minutes to 20 minutes, 16,000, 20 to 30 minutes past that window, 5,800, and over 30 minutes late, 4,500. These are approximate. You can see the exact numbers on the screen. So bear in mind what that means when we look at that 30 minutes past the window and those 4,566 individuals in the past 8 months, out of over 1 million trips that we have performed, those are the individuals that had to wait 30 minutes past the scheduled pickup times. Our scheduled pickup window is 30 minutes, meaning if you have a scheduled ride for 1 p.m., we can arrive between 1 o'clock and 1:30 to pick you up. In this case scenario, that 30 minutes past the window means that our driver did not arrive until the 2 p.m. hour. These are obviously the trips where our concentration for improvement of on-time performance comes from. Next slide, please. I do a comparative of on-time performance, what we're performing currently in 2025 versus the FTA threshold and versus our performance for the year of 2024, we can see that it's significant improvement as we continue to work to the best possible service that we can provide. In this case, in 2024, by these ratios, we would have had 87,000 people picked up late. So we have reduced that number by a little over 17,000. If we hit the FTA threshold and just maintain the FTA threshold without trying to surpass it, we would have had an additional 36,800 trips that would have arrived late. So I think that constantly working to improve this service with every opportunity that we identify and can is a continuous to improve that experience for individuals using the system. May I also state that our contract language includes a stretch goal of 93%, and that's meant to incentivize performance with our contractors to exceed the FTA requirements.
And then they get additional $500.
Go ahead, Julie.
Next slide, please. Now, when we start to look at appointment time, our appointment time for 88 trips is 93.1. For non-88 trips is 93.1, and total trips 93.1. This just happens to be a unique situation where they all match. In this, we also track how many of those total trips, those appointment times, how many of them did we arrive early and how many did we arrive late at? Because again, that begins to identify how do we improve that performance. So in this case, we had a total of 15,000 trips that were outside of the appointment acceptance matrices. 2,300 of them arrived early, and approximately 14,000 of them arrived late for 88 trips. When we look at the total trips, we have 3,300 that arrived early and 19,500 that arrived late. Let me break that out in a little bit more detail for you. Next slide, please. when we look, and again, my concentration is really on these late trips and improving the experience of all of our clients. When I look at that 19,500 people that were late for their appointments in the last 8 months, approximately 5,000 were between 30 seconds and 5 minutes late for their appointment time. We have approximately 1,500 that were 5 to 10 minutes late for their appointment times. My concentration is how do we get those people down into the 30 to 40 minutes are within their appointment time. That shouldn't be that difficult to achieve. And in studying those matrices and those performances and improving that. As you can see, as we get a little bit later, those numbers do drop. We want to continue to see those numbers drop. And we want to continue to see that our on-time performance for appointment time increases. So out of the total trips of 331,000 with appointment times, 19,500 were late. But again, we have the, between approximately 10,000 that are less than 10 minutes or less late to their appointment time. Next slide, please. And again, when I do that comparative to both the FTA threshold of 90% and our performance in the year of 2024, we can see that we have improved that experience for a minimum of 11,000 employees compared to FTA threshold. And we have improved it by 16,000 compared to our 2024 performance. Next slide, please. Our on-board time, ADA we're at 96.8%, non-ADA we're at 98.2%, and total trips overall of 97.2%. That means that overall we have 30,000 trips out of 1 million, a little over 1 million trips that are exceeding the onboard time. And that's where our concentration is to reduce that number and improve our on-time performance. Next slide, please. Again, a comparative just for your knowledge and for your records that our 2025 trips, we had approximately 30,000 people that exceeded the threshold year to date. If we had used the FTA threshold, we would have been around 53,000. And compared to 2024's performance, we would have had 41,000. Next slide, please. We had kind of started this with our overview of what the main KPIs are that we track and report to TAC. One of them being any denials. As you see in 2025, we maintained 0 total denials for 88 trips. And that's something that we will continue to do. It's an utmost priority that no 88 trips are denied. Next slide, please. So one of the questions that we had from our last session is how do we improve our on-time performance, our onboard time, and our appointment times? There are multiple factions to that. And trying to break out some of that detail, I've tried to do that here. A big part of it is what scheduling software are we using to optimize routes and improve the scheduling from reservationists. Using advanced real-time technologies, TrapBase is the software that we're currently using. It provides the best possible trip scheduling solutions for reservationists. It assists dispatchers to improve and enhance the routing. It assists managers with operational management, real-time performance tracking, fleet visibility, staff communication. And we're currently working to implement DriverMate into this that will improve the real-time road conditions and communications for drivers on the vehicles. I know that we've had several conversations on DriverMate in the past. And again, our goal is to hopefully have it implemented by this winter or towards the end of the winter. On the operational side, we have provider oversight on a daily basis that addresses operational issues as quickly as possible. Because we're able to identify issues almost in a real-time fashion, we are able to provide that oversight in an almost real-time fraction, meaning as soon as we become aware that our on-time performance is dropping, we can review those routes, we can get the staffing working on improving the route optimization, and in many cases have more experienced staff stepped in if it's more of an inexperienced dispatch, using that as an example, so that we can get the routing straightened out before the peak periods come aboard. That would be one example. When we come to the customer service side of it, we take each complaint that we receive and it's investigated. Now, I know many people feel that they call and complain and nothing's ever done, and there could be nothing more farther from the truth. Each complaint that comes in is filed into our tracking system, is entered into our tracking system. The providers are aware of it. MMSC is aware of it. The providers do the research on each complaint. That research is then provided to our department, where our investigator reviews that information to ensure that due diligent and accurate information has been received. And then we're reaching out to that client to letting them know the results of that investigation. We also utilize that information to improve our service. For if I make up a hypothetical example where we have a complaint on a route and the routing was just absolutely horrible according to the client, we can take that route, we investigate it, we see where the routing went poor, how it could have been improved, what steps they should have taken to improve it. We work with that dispatcher, or if it was the dispatch team at the time, and the providers work directly with them as a training tool on how they could have improved that at that time, so that going forward, they're educated on those steps that are needed to do just that. We also utilize exception reports, which are an analysis by hour of the day of the week, and specific customers to identify any patterns or practices of failure and identify opportunities for systematic improvement. Next slide, please. We had some member questions from last week. I did answer them, but some of them I said I would go back and re-verify. So I'd like to just kind of go through that for everybody. One of the questions we had is, what is MMSC doing to improve performance? I covered a very grand overview of that on the previous slide. Why is non-ADA onboard time better? As we explained or discussed during the last session, the non-ADA trips are longer, usually longer trips are outside of the main metropolitan area and what's considered non-ADA areas. With the greater distance, this also has allows a greater onboard time. Most of our trips are ADA, they're much shorter trips, and they have a less onboard time allowed and represents a majority of the trips scheduled. One of the other questions we had is, if an electronic reader on a vehicle or a card is not working properly, does MMSC collect those fares from the clients? The answer is no. The equipment or card failure, if we do not go after it for collections after the fact. So the client is no longer responsible if there's a failure at the point of fare payment. Another question we had is, what other data do we track? And just to name a few, just so you have a concept of some of the things that we are constantly reviewing on a daily, weekly, have provider meetings on, daily discussions on, our operational productivity. Productivity is the number of passengers per hour that are transported. We have an expectation that a certain number of passengers will be transported on an hourly basis to ensure that we can achieve on-time performance, onboard time, appointment time, and productivity levels according to the FTA. We watch slack time very closely. That's any time in the scheduling system where routes are down for an extended period of time, and ensure that that's being utilized to improve our performance and optimize routes. Any non-escorts are tracked, reviewed. Collisions and incidents are also tracked, reviewed, and investigated. Any safety issues or concerns that are brought to our attention. No-shows, missed trips by the contractor. Why did those missed trips happen? How do we ensure that that doesn't happen going forward? Where are the main times of the day that we're having those kind of issues, and how do we prevent them? Obviously, trip counts, majority of those I've reported to you today are on trip counts. Eligibility, certification for the use of Metro Mobility, vehicle maintenance, that's both preventive and ongoing maintenance. Any vehicle maintenance issues that are reported to us that we investigated, service hours, mileage, NTD data, etc. Very open to any questions on any of these items. And then going forward, again, a majority of what we'll present to the TAC committee are the major key performance indicators, as that's what a majority of the metropolitan areas are indeed graded on by the FTA. So do we have any other questions from the committee members?
Sam Jasmine.
Heidi and then Sam.
This is Heidi. I was amazed when I was on Metro Mobility just this past week. The dispatcher asked the driver if he had picked up the person and done his job correctly, and I was very pleased because he wasn't answering the questions. And yes, he was from another country, and he finally answered the question. So I'm glad that if you can hire more people who, think about those kinds of things, that would be awesome, because she was looking out for us to make sure that that person got dropped off and that person got picked up because of the questions he was asking. So she was clarifying, did you do your job correctly? So I think that's something you need to think about when you do hiring of dispatchers, if they have good communication skills when things get really messed up, because some of us are very vulnerable adults, because I've seen them on the vehicles, and they only know that they can be on there to go to wherever they need to go and then go home, and they rely on the driver to do the rest. So I was very pleased in that. And just so you know, I live in West St. Paul, so you can kind of know the area I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Success stories. Did I see another hand? Oh, Sam, that's right. Go ahead, Sam.
Hi. Thanks for taking my questions in advance, Julie. A comment before the question, and this has happened on multiple times, and I know people mention it to me, but I wonder if there's a way to, I guess I don't know the total relationship always with the driver and the dispatch, but there's sometimes times where, obviously the bus is very busy and somebody gets picked up and they may be going literally 5 minutes or so from their house, or, 2 miles from their house. And the driver makes them go, and I'm sure you've heard this story before, quite a ways away, and they may or may not make their appointment time because of that. And I feel like when the driver's asked, will you please just contact dispatch because I'm going just, literally 2 miles away or whatever, and you won't be late, and this way you'll save my appointment time. Drivers have refused to do it. So I'm wondering if there's just a way to put a comment in to kind of that, number one. And then number two is actually a question too, is that my understanding is that service providers get penalized either if they're 30 minutes late or if they don't make your appointment time. You can confirm that if I'm correct on these, but if you know they're going to be late let's say it's after the 30-minute mark, and you are frustrated and somebody offers you a ride and you can take it, and you call in and cancel, does that then take that penalty off them, or does it still get counted? I guess those are my questions, and thank you so much for taking them.
Oh, you're so welcome. I would like to go back to the first part of your comment about being routed away from your drop-off. So in your example, you're on board, you're only about 2 miles from where you need to be dropped, but the driver will run 5 miles out of the way to pick somebody else up or drop somebody else off. Bear in mind that because it is a shared ride service, everybody's appointment time and everybody's scheduled time are handled with the same level of priority. So we need to ensure that you get to your appointment time on time, but we need to ensure that that other person is also picked up on time and or being dropped off at their appointment on time. Now, in your example, you had said that had made it late to your appointment. Those are the situations where I want you to contact MMSC so that we can investigate that to ensure that that routing and or how those trips are being handled can be reviewed to improve our performance. In many, many of these scenarios, many of these types of examples where we're going 5 miles out of the way when they were just around the corner or just a mile down the road, that's to ensure that not only your scheduled pickup time and your appointment time are met, but also that any other passengers that are routed onto that vehicle. So if you're being routed 5 minutes out of the way or 5 miles out of the way, bear in mind that that person is probably being dropped off in time for their appointment, and the routing should ensure that you are then dropped off on time for your appointment.
Just to clarify, this is Sam. What was happening is that she was actually over a half hour late, and the other person, I'm not sure about their appointment time, but if they were on time, great for that other person, but they're exchanging one person's appointment time for another then, to me. Anyway.
I can understand that perspective, especially if they are already running 30 minutes behind. And again, those need to be reported so we can take a look at that route. Who is managing the route? How is it routed? Is it driver error, staffing error, routing error? So that we can correct that so tomorrow that same situation does not happen for either of you. We received so many discussions that this happened to me or this has happened to me 5 or 6 times in the past. Until I can have the actual data of the actual date and be able to look at that route, I'm only going to be able to give you a generic answer. I need that opportunity. Our staff need that opportunity to investigate it and know how to learn from it and improve that service.
Understood. Thank you.
But in many cases, I would say 90% of those where we've gone a mile or 2 out of the way, it is to ensure that everybody is achieving it. In that particular case, the route was already running late. And so we should have done something in a more of a preventive measure to ensure that that route was on time.
And the other question?
And the other question, forgive me, could you remind me, please, Sam?
Absolutely. That if my understanding is that a penalty is given to a service provider if they both either are 30 minutes late or more than 30 minutes late, or they are late for your appointment time. So meaning they miss your appointment time. So if they're over 30 minutes late, and you call and cancel after because you maybe received another way to get to where you need to go, do they still get penalized, or are they able to kind of, I call it cheat the system because, that person canceled, so now we don't get in trouble for being late anyway. So that was my question.
That is an excellent question. It really is, because it's actually multifaceted. First of all, you are correct. If our on time is not achieved, if we're outside of that 30-minute window, there is a penalty. If you are on board longer than the allotted time, there is a penalty. If we are not making that appointment time, there is a penalty. Okay? But in this case, where they're outside of your 30-minute window for your scheduled pickup time, that is considered a missed trip. That's something else that is held towards the provider, and you are not liable for that. If that has been counted as a late cancel in your file, you just need to give us a call and we will correct that. Missed trips, if they're outside that 30-minute window, is not held against the client, but it is held against the provider.
I feel like maybe you misunderstood my question, so I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. What I was asking was, if you cancel after the 30-minute window, do they still get penalized? Not us, but them, the service provider.
It is still considered a missed trip by the provider, not a late cancel by the client.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Those were good questions and very enlightening. Any other questions from members? Otherwise, I do have two myself. Claudia, take it away.
Hi, Julie, this is Claudia. Just a couple
Hi,
things.
Claudia.
Has there been a follow-up on the Go-To card machine and why they're not working? And we need some better training for the drivers. We're having problems with drivers not doing their job. And we have been reporting them, but some of the drivers are still not working with their own rules. They're not following the Metro rules, but they're going by their own rules. So something's got to do with the training for the drivers. Thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, very good question. The go-to cards are maintained. We are the process of having them ensure that they're all running. Let me follow up on that, Claudia, but my understanding it's a provider's responsibility working with contractors to ensure that those go-to cards are working. And I will follow up on the driver training. I do know that's an issue that we bring up on a daily basis. Usually in my situation on the customer service side, I can use individual cases as an example. Can you work with these drivers? Can you ensure that this is brought up at their next continuing education meetings? Drivers do go through continuing education on a monthly basis on both working with the disabled, any issues that are identified, and safety meetings, all safety issues brought to their. So yes, driver training and continued driver training are always a priority, and we'll continue to work on that.
Heidi, go ahead.
Yeah, and that goes back to her question she just asked. Is that will also be with the dispatcher? Because sometimes the dispatcher has to do training with the driver to get them to do their actual job correctly. So is there a combination where, like my example earlier, that lady was very smart to ask the right questions to get him to answer back, because she got very silent responses for a while, and then worked out how to, did you pick up the right people? Did you tell me what you actually did, and walked him through so he could answer the questions. Can it be a little bit of both of that too, with her question too? Because I've seen both ends. Did that make sense to you, ma'am?
It does. And I would just state that when I talk about continued education for drivers, that includes reservationists and dispatchers, both in providing support and training to dispatchers, as well as dispatchers providing that support to drivers. They have road supervisors that are heavily engaged in that. All managers are on top of that, and as well as both MMSC, operational and customer service, identifying issues and asking that they get addressed by the providers.
Okay. And that's also the call center too, because I like it when they ask me what your ID number is and do you need the lift, because then they're actually doing their job correctly, you know, and just saying, what are you calling for? And it's like, well, that doesn't help 100%, you know, because I could be anybody. And I know you want to keep certain things private, you know, and I have that right to not have my file out on the table, you know. So I like that when they ask, you know, what's your ID number, because then they were knowing that I am a customer and I am using it correctly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, it does include them.
Daryl?
Yeah, the question I have, Julie, is it's about the new lifts and on the vehicles. If you notice that pressure plate or that plate that drops the go plate down, it's really tricky now. The new ones, if you don't put enough weight on the ramp, it's really hard to get that plate to open up. And I live on a very busy road. I live on a state road now. So the pitch on that road is a little bit different for water runoff. And so what has happened is, more importantly, drivers will pull up their vehicle and they'll put down their lift, and that lift won't deploy correctly. So then they'll do it 2-3 times. And if my partner and I are excited, or if we're overly eager to tell them how to make it work, then they'll take it, and they'll take it as we're being disruptive with them, and they'll say, well, if you can't let us put down the lift, we're not going to let you get on the lift.
Yep.
And then I say, look, you can pull your vehicle about 5 feet that way in the driveway of that business, and I'll walk over there and get on the lift. That lift should deploy correctly. And they'll say, don't tell me how to do my job. And if you can't get on the lift right here, we don't have to pick you up. And I say, okay, let's try this again. And so what happens is you have to convince a driver that's willing to put enough weight on that lift in order for that plate to deploy correctly. They won't do that because they've gotten their foot ran over before, by me particularly. So I tell them to keep their foot out of the way. And if they can't put their foot on the lift to help me get it open, then they're like, what do we do? So it's a tussle back and forth. And what I'm saying is, if comes a time when I'm not able to get on that lift because of the new ramp, I'm not going to be very happy, because they've already tried to deny rides from us before because of that.
I'd first like to say, Daryl, that if you feel you've been treated that way, to please call MMSC. You know both Cheryl and I. Let us take that complaint so we can investigate those individual drivers that may be treating you in such a manner. We don't want anybody treated in that manner. Second of all, you're right. The newer vehicles do have that flap that it's a little bit more tricky. We are working through all drivers being retrained on every type of lift that we have. I believe that we're pretty darn close to 100% achievement in that. So you should continue to see improvement in that area.
Thank you.
A couple, since there's no other member questions or comments, Heidi, go ahead, and then I'll ask
I
one
just
more.
have one more. With the changes of what's going on in the United States, how are you maintaining I don't know if you can answer this question, maintain the vehicles? Because I thought, I heard way back that you got some of the stuff out of Canada because they had some really good products and stuff for Metro Mobility. And I was just wondering, how are you in the future, so we can still have this service that helps many people, because I know some people in West St. Paul that truly need it, that, it's a lifeline of getting out of the group home, So how are you working on getting that stuff taken care of when maintenance falls apart?
Well, as you know, supply and demand issues are improving. It's considerably since COVID and continue to improve. We also try to ensure that when we purchase from a vendor, that there is a reliable chain for us to be able to ensure that we have replacement parts or products that are needed to ensure the safety and maintenance of those vehicles. We also have a very strong fleet management It includes both preventive maintenance and ongoing maintenance that are tracked by both operations and the management teams for each provider. They're required to report all of those issues to us. So if that does become a major issue for Metro Mobility, it's something that we would bring to TAC so that you're aware of that. And at this point, we've been able to maintain it very well. I can't hypothetically say what the future will bring. I do know that we have measures in place to ensure our chain of command is stable,
Okay.
or our chain of supply, our supply and demand chains are stable.
I was just thinking about it because I heard on the news and I remember what we had talked about in the past, and I'm going, oh no, because we gotten some good, products from different parts of the United States and also outside the US. So I was just wondering. Thank you.
That's a very good question. Thank you.
So two maybe potential future data points to look at, not saying that we have to, but just tossing it out there. The first one being any overlap in either on-time performance and on-board time violations, for a single particular riders, because I know we're all drawing from that same 1 million plus rides. I'd be curious if there's any overlap there. To use an example, if there's an individual who scheduled a ride in both the on-time performance and the on-board time thresholds were violated. And then secondly, if there are particular areas or service providers or drivers that tend to have increased not meeting the thresholds for on-time performance and movement time or onboard time. So those are just two thoughts that I had on future data points to explore. Does that make sense? I don't necessarily need a response on that now. I'm just tossing it out there as thoughts that I had on different data.
Yes, Chair, that makes sense. And also the one that I mentioned to you a few minutes ago. Is there a way that we can see what the hot spots look like? When Metro Mobility is at its heaviest point and when they're at their lightest point. Is there a way, in most cities, I can go to like the police department or the fire department and say, give me an overview of all your hot spots in your neighborhood. And you will see certain times of the day, there's a lot of activity in certain parts of the city versus other parts of the city. And so what I'm wondering is if Metro Mobility ever concentrates on their hotspots and tries to alleviate those pressures by allowing incentives for other modes of transit to come in. Does that make sense, Julie, or not?
Oh, that makes excellent sense, and it's a wonderful question, Daryl. Bear in mind that what we call our peak times are obviously our hottest points. Those are the highest demand in the greatest area, and in many cases can limit our ability to service non-ADA areas. So where non-ADA trips may be denied, we are not allowed to deny an ADA trip. And those become our hot points. You'll notice, especially when it comes to the afternoon, we can correct that morning rush hour, that hot point of the Monday through Friday AM traffic. But again, in the afternoon, it becomes even more. And for those of you that travel back and forth to work, I get to work probably in about 22 minutes, but the ride home is about 45 minutes. And that always is mystifying why it takes so much longer in the afternoon in my own car.
Right.
So I know Metro Mobility clients experience that same thing. Again, when I had talked earlier that we do an analysis by day of week and hour of day is specifically for that, so that we can ensure we have both the vehicles and staffing required for the high peak times. So Daryl, that's actually something that we are constantly looking at and constantly reviewing, not just on a daily basis, but continuously. When I look at yesterday, how can we improve that for tomorrow? How do we ensure that doesn't happen next Tuesday? So that each day of the week and time of day that we're putting the effort in to improve that service.
Yep.
Some cases it's a staffing constraint. In some cases it's a vehicle availability constraint. When you have every vehicle available that is out during peak hours, you can do the best that you can do and ensure that no ADA trips are missed. In that case, that may be where you may experience your on-time performance, your on-time being a little delayed because we're at maximum vehicle and staffing thresholds. So yes, that's something we spend a lot of time on.
Thank you very much, Julie. We don't have any more questions or comments from members. We appreciate this quite
do
in-depth
wanna
and
say-
enlightening. Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
I've never met her before, but I really like this, conversation we're having. It's more in-depth, I'm saying it right, where we can understand what's going on, and we've never had a talk like this before. And I know I haven't been here for a long time, but this is really helpful to know that, because these are what things people have been trying to ask, when you sometimes ride the bus, you hear them talking about some of this stuff, and now she's breaking it down, or someone's finally taking it seriously. So I appreciate that.
If you didn't hear Julie, Heidi just paid you a nice compliment.
Well, I would love to take that compliment, but I must share it with the team. Believe it or not, the entire team's focus are on these issues.
Yes.
Jasmine?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Julie, two things. Number one, I just want to reiterate what Heidi said, and thank you for breaking it down in numbers and not just percentages, because we've been wanting numbers for a long time. And the second thing is there any way to find out, like, how big of a penalty in dollars each provider is paying every, I don't know, quarter, month, whatever because they get penalized. So there must be a public record of how big of a penalty they pay.
They meet their threshold.
So let me look into that. I do know it's part of the provider billing, so let me look into that and get back to you. I'll conclude that as our follow-up questions for next session. Would that be okay, Sam?
That'd be perfectly fine. And I think if I can squeeze one more thing in, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Because of all the current stuff politically that's going on, do we have any concerns in regards to Metro Mobility having any funding cuts or not getting funding that they should be getting in the future of, like, coming up?
No, we separated that money about 5 years ago. So.
You're right. I'm not sure if I can answer that question, only because it's based on economy, politics, who's elected into position, and what their answers are to the budgeting questions that are out there. I think any public service is always under the possibility of budget cuts, and we are constantly fighting for budget increases for our services so that we can provide more service to the public. It's always painful for everybody involved, both on our side and the public, when there are budget cuts and yet demand is increasing and demand for the service is increasing. So I think keeping that balance is vital. And I don't know if I have an answer to you yet. And if that's really more of a legislative question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Julie. We appreciate the in-depth discussion and look forward to your next visit.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Daryl, do you have a gold? Was it, no, purple, sorry, purple line?
I don't have a purple line update.
Okay.
They keep moving the goalpost on us. On that, I can speculate what I think's happening, but I should not do that given the fact of the position that I sit in. So
I think that would be a good idea.
I will tell you that I will work with Chair Finley and the team to make sure that we do have some kind of purple line update going forward next month.
Thank you. All right, are there any members of the public who would like to speak at this point?
We don't have no public.
I don't see anybody in the room. I don't see anybody online. Fantastic. Are there any TAC members who would love to make a comment at this point? Yes, Heidi, go ahead.
Yeah, when I still have to re-sign up because they changed the text thing for the buses, but I'm getting some of those emails, like what Daryl was talking about. So they've been doing some really good, like pictures, and I've seen a few good videos of how things are moving along, you know, for transportation that we talk about monthly. So I thought those were really cool, like, you know, they'll give me a view of the railroad, you know, it's kind of like I'm up in the sky and they're filming it all, and I get to learn about the ins and outs of what you guys talk about here.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi,
I like that, you know, so there are some good, if you're ever on those, you can learn some valuable stuff.
Oh, yes, thank you, Heidi, for paying attention to those. And Dane in their marketing department, I don't know if you're familiar with any Metro Transit marketing or any type of Metro Mobility marketing. Dane is another reporter that used to be stomping around at the Capitol, usually with TPT and Channel 2. He's made a lot of videos relating to how to jump on board transit, and they're fabulous because people outside our system that are coming in to visit Minnesota, they're like, hey, I already know how to ride your system because I've been watching your videos for a few months now. And so that's really, that is really exciting news that I forget to bring back to the team, that other people get to watch our videos around the country and they say, we want to be like Minnesota.
Patty.
I have a comment.
Oh, yes, Patty and then Sam.
I learned just before the meeting, and Claudia, you can fill in details here, but the next fall conversation is going to be on the 9th and 10th of, not August, October. I think the date, the one in-person one is on the 10th from 10:30 till noon. And I can't remember, we just saw Claudia Fuentes before the meeting. And so she, you know, so it's coming up just a little bit after our next meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll get the information out to members. Any other member comment?
The Metro Mobility, conference, the first one will be a virtual, which will be October 9th in the evening. And the in-service one will be October 10th in the afternoon.
Where's the in-service one at?
Pardon me?
Where's the
Where's
in-person one going to be
in-service?
at?
The in-person one, where is it going to be?
The in-person she gave me a name, it's in the north side of Minneapolis.
It's probably at the garage, right?
And she will be sending us email
Yeah,
information
yeah.
We'll make sure to
when
get
it
you
gets
all.
closer.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, and if I may, it is at the UROC Center on October 10th from 10 a.m. to noon.
Can I, because she's here, can I ask the question?
Go ahead. I can't promise that it will be answered, but yes, you can make a member comment.
Is it member comment? We were trying to, my friend wants to sign up for the alerts. And we did an email, and the response we got back is go down to the bottom of the page. And the email she gave us, the webpage was the Metro Mobility webpage. It wasn't the Met Console. So today, Metro Mobility lady said we have to go on my cell phone. We had to go to the Met Console to the bottom of the page to order to sign up. And we thought it was really simple. And then she did say to us that that she's had complaints before that people can't sign up because they didn't know where to go. And we were wondering, because he wants the alerts and wants certain things. He thought it was great that you could do that, and I couldn't remember how I did it. So we thought it was on the page, but it really is on the bottom of the Met Council page in a little corner that makes no sense, and I would have never known that unless I pushed it and said, "Are you sure we're correct?" So I just wanted to tell you that it's a little complicated just to sign up for. It's really great for like winter alerts and stuff, and like this meeting thing they just talked about. So I got them all jazzed up, and it became a workout. So I just wanted you to know that, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Sam, and then Eric. Go ahead, Sam.
All right. Sorry, I'm going to open Pandora's box. Is there any guidelines that we have on how to deal with, and this I feel goes to both members and otherwise, with when things get out of control in a meeting between public comment or even maybe a member comment, but specifically for public comment. But is there a guideline that we might have, or should there be one? Because sometimes things get very uncomfortable.
Thank you for the comment. I think that's something that we all probably want to know, but I appreciate the comment, Sam. Eric, did you have a comment or?
No comment.
Okay, I thought I saw your hand up. Okay, and just a reminder to folks for member comment, that's just for members to comment, not necessarily to expect an answer. And also, I know I don't necessarily enforce this all the time, but in order to keep folks from talking over each other, please look to me for permission to speak, just because I don't want, it's not that big of a deal, but I don't want folks to be interrupted or to not be able to finish their sentence because somebody wants to chime in right away. So just a reminder on that. But Sam, to your point, I would say that's the responsibility of the chair to maintain meeting, to keep things cordial in the meeting. That's really the role of the chair. So that's my responsibility. But with that, if there is no more member comment, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Glad you brought up the school.